Everyone's talking about AI, but who's actually implementing it? I'm Jenna Ahern, the CEO of Guardian Owl Digital, a search engine marketing firm rooted in integrity and transparency in the digital age. AI and marketing are at a crossroads, and the technology is moving faster than most business leaders can keep up with. That's why we created Go AI, a podcast series where we interview leaders in various industries about all things artificial intelligence. With each guest, my co-host Connor Rafferty and I will explore the applications that this rapidly evolving technology has for business leaders and their industries. Let's go AI. We are so eager to introduce our next guest, Summer Goldman. She's the COO of MI2.
Very good, yes.
Summer, tell us a little bit about the company and your role.
Yeah, absolutely. So MI2 stands for Metals Innovation Initiative. So now you know why we shorten it to MI2.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Much easier to say. It's also super cool because it makes me think Mission Impossible. And so I'm doing the doot in my head.
Oh my gosh, now I'm always going to think about that.
Now you're always going to think about that, yeah.
I love it.
So MI2 is a nonprofit. It's a Kentucky-based nonprofit. And it was founded in 2022. And our sole mission is to have folks, when they think of innovation in the metals industry, to think of Kentucky first. And so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. We have a very good time. And the metals industry is the third largest employer in Kentucky. And I think people don't realize that.
Did not realize that.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's behind automotive and food and beverage.
And aviation's up there too, right?
Yeah, but not ahead of metals.
Wow, that's amazing.
Not ahead of metals. Yeah, I actually brought a can of water. It's an aluminum can. And 50% of the aluminum came out of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
I love that.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So I tend to buy more cans than plastic now.
Fair enough.
But it's cool that the product comes out of Kentucky. The metals in Kentucky are aluminum, steel, and copper. Those are the primaries. It's cool that it came out of Kentucky, but the can represents the thousands of people, like 36,000 people are employed by the metals industry in Kentucky. And so you think about these are good paying jobs with career paths. You think about them using those salaries to buy goods and services in the state of Kentucky and support the economy. You think about their kiddos having the ability to go to any of our fine universities and technical colleges that we have. And so it starts to get bigger. And so that's the work of MI2. We want people to think of Kentucky when they think of metals innovation. And so what we do is we partner with government, with innovators. So you think of startups, we definitely the universities, private researchers, anyone that's in workforce development or economic development. We partner all of them together to work on strategic focus areas that are important to the metals industry. So this year, the big three for us are talent workforce, of course.
Okay.
Technology innovation, very appropriate for today.
Yes, it is.
And sustainability, which we'll actually get into a little bit too as well. It's hard to talk about technology innovation without talking about sustainability. So
I love it. Artificial intelligence. Let's start there. What comes to mind in the metal industry when you think AI?
Just how broad it is. Mm-hmm. It's actually, I kind of liken AI to the metals industry. So we've already hit on, there's all these different kinds of metals, but there's also a lot of different work in the metals industry. So you've got the raw metal that has to be processed so that somebody can make something out of it, all the way to manufacturers who are using a fabricated component, a metal component. AI to me is super broad. We all know about ChatGPT. I'm sure we're going to talk about that at some point. But in the metals industry, it can range anywhere from AI-enabled robotics to smart algorithms to machine learning. So it's very broad.
And how would you describe MI2's kind of current relationship to using AI in its operations?
We don't use it a ton necessarily in our operations, but AI in and of itself is very, very important to the work we do. So one of the work groups that I just mentioned was the technology innovation. So we have actually already done this. We've identified problems within the metals industry in Kentucky that we believe can be solved through technology. And so now we are sourcing those technologies to pilot in the organizations. And AI is absolutely one of those. So when we talk about how AI is integrated with MI2, we believe that it's a potential solution to a problem in the metals industry.
And what are some of those problems that you're looking to tackle?
There's a lot. So the maintenance of the equipment is so important. That equipment is expensive. We need to be able to predict issues before they happen. And we can do that with AI. We can also set up preventative maintenance plans with AI so you don't have downtime. So you get back to the can, right? To this aluminum
really
can in front of me. Yeah. Well, number one, it's expensive, but it's also if there's downtime, what does that do to the person that's employed there? And so you want to avoid those things. Quality control for sure. So you think about machine learning, but using that to enhance the quality control to make sure the product that leaves our state is really, really good. You can forecast supply and demand. We were talking about that a little bit as we walked in, but forecast supply and demand. And then I keep saying this one's my favorite. There's so many favorites, but we can use AI to optimize the usage and manage demand for energy, which is a big deal because you think about a win-win. It's an economic and an environmental impact, a positive impact. That's good.
Talk a little bit about that. Give us an example.
So, great example. There is obviously these plants use a lot of energy and there's a lot of heat that is required to process metal in any way. And so the last thing you want to do is use a lot of fossil fuels to create a lot of heat and then lose the heat.
Yeah.
Right? It's wasted. It's heat waste is actually the term. And so there's different applications that we can use to, number one, identify where we're losing heat, and then to also prevent the loss of the heat, and then also make sure that the energy usage makes sense. So
All
it's
through AI.
Yeah, yeah.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That does bring up a lot of I've written a lot about AI in manufacturing context.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of brings to mind for me a lot of other examples, such as using AI to kind of just create different models of a manufacturing floor, kind of just the different ways that you could, instead of back in the old days, you maybe have to get like a whole team to think it through. It's like, okay, if we put this machine there, what impact on the energy usage would that have?
Yep.
Now you can have AI just instantly create multiple different kind of floor plans with information embedded in that about how much energy would be used in this one, what's the most efficient. So that's just one example that came to mind.
Yeah, I just actually geeked out because I'm like, oh my goodness, you could have a lean manufacturing model. Like
the COO of you.
I know it is. Yeah, you could have a lean manufacturing model. How much easier would it be to set up the floor in a better way using AI?
Is that something that right now, like you're looking at? Like again, you're talking about lean.
That piece hasn't played in. We're more concerned with the equipment, with the energy use, which with safety in the workplace. How can we move metals within a plant with automated
robotics,
autonomous vehicles?
So obviously 2020, MI2 launched? 2022. So it's fairly new, right?
I still
a couple
consider
years.
it a startup. It feels like a startup.
So what was your first impression of AI within, MI2 and the work that you're doing? There's a lot of doom and gloom. Some people are excited about it. Like what was your initial impression?
I'm excited about it, but that's my nature. Everything's wonderful all the time.
So you're optimistic.
I am.
You're seeing the good.
I'm very optimistic because here's the thing. AI is, I keep likening it to the internet in 1995.
Oh my gosh, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
the internet is not good or bad. It's the application of the internet. And,
exactly.
And AI is the same way. AI is not good or bad. It's how are we going to apply it? And so for me, I'm super excited because I only think of all the beneficial applications. In fact, my impression is that it's so hard for me to get my brain around it. Like I feel like I'm behind the times a little bit. And it's like I'm constantly trying to keep up. And you can't keep up with how AI is iterating right now. You just can't.
No, the speed is so fast.
Yeah. And I'm so glad we have really, really smart people that are coming up with all these concepts and cool ways to apply it in ways that really do impact the world in a good way.
The year 2022 was a big one for AI as well, with the release of ChatGPT, which kind of put the whole concept of generative AI on the minds of many people in the public. Many people before ChatGPT perhaps did not notice AI, even if they were using Siri or just GPSs that would automatically route and update according to there's a traffic infraction that happens, automatically updates the route for you. All these examples of AI, but people weren't really thinking okay, what is AI and what role is it playing in my daily life? Suddenly they had this tool that they could use every day to have them write emails or I don't know, poems, school essays, if they're still in school. That is kind of the big technology in AI right now. And do you see generative AI kind of playing a big role within the metals industry right now in terms of being able to create videos, images, text?
Yep. Those tools are super helpful. We use them, or they can be used to envision new processes, for example, product solutions, approaches to factories of the future. It's funny, our CEO, Vijay Kimanini, he's very much technology oriented. And I actually had talked to him about, hey, I've got these questions coming up. And I said, how do we use like ChatGPT? How are we using it? He literally asked ChatGPT how it could be used in the metals industry. And he sent me that as a response. So he's got a great sense of humor.
Yeah,
he's got a great sense of humor. Yeah. But you think about analyzing large data sets, you think about the data sets that you would have in the metals world. And so analyzing large data sets really quickly is helpful. We've already kind of covered optimizing processes, the predictive maintenance tools, we've talked about that. But creating the algorithms for automated quality control, that we talked about supply chain, and then some recommendations for customers. But there's all kinds of ways to do it, but you got to have the data. And the funniest response from ChatGPT, it was actually my favorite response, and I was like, I cannot believe ChatGPT has made this point and I didn't think to make this point, is that ChatGPT will call out that it's a great compliment to the expertise of professionals in the industry. And yes, it is.
It is. It's a tool. It's a complementary tool.
So obviously the metals industry would produce just a ton of data daily. And the general truth about AI is that it's really only as good as the data that it has. And so if you're not storing the data correctly, if you're not, say, labeling the data correctly, even just like misspellings can kind of throw AI off. So what exactly, in terms of for the metals industry, for data collection practices and just preparation for AI, what would you recommend?
These are the questions that MI2 exists to work through, right? And so we know that there are already a lot of questions about data quality and becoming AI prepared. So there's a lot of conversations about that now. We know that the data's got to be clean. We know that AI really only works if it can predict something based on past experience, if that makes sense. So those are some of the questions that we're hoping to be able to answer as we pilot some of these technologies with our organizations.
You're piloting this technology with organizations. You launched in 2022. How did this come to be? It sounds like there was multiple entities that kind of came together to, or at least be complementary for MI2.
It's actually, AI is indirectly a reason for MI2. So
really?
Follow me for a minute.
Okay.
You got to
I
follow the origin story.
Yeah.
So MI2 began as a white paper that was written by the nonprofit Accelerate Kentucky, which has been around for a bit. Yeah. And Accelerate Kentucky's genesis was a partnership that began between a group of innovators in Kentucky and labs at MIT, driven by the Computer Science and AI Lab, which is the biggest research lab at MIT.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, see how it's all connected?
Yeah.
And this work began in late 2016. And the question that they were answering is, how can we imagine transformative technologies like AI in a way that they will support the future of work in Kentucky? So it's like, how do we bring all this home? And that collaboration led to MI2. In fact, that was 2016. We launched in 22. You come full circle, and our CEO, Vijay, that I'd mentioned earlier, he just recently was asked. So, I keep thinking like, he's a Kentuckian. This Kentuckian was asked to go partner and speak in front of all these national teams for the National Science Foundation's Regional Innovation Engines program about how MI2 has brought a region together to focus on technology for an industry.
And that's incredible.
It's like, yeah, I'm so proud of us.
I was just saying, a hashtag Kentucky proud.
I know.
Like,
absolutely.
I'm pumped. Well, and it's amazing because, again, AI, like Connor mentioned, has been around for a long time. This began in 2016. And like Connor mentioned, ChatGPT really didn't hit the ground running until November 2022. So we were already thinking about this from a state standpoint.
Well, and the metals industry was already using some.
Sure.
You think about specifically like around machine learning and especially in the recycling. When you have all this post-consumer metal going through, you've got to be able to pick out what metal you want to recycle, what's trash, what's paper trash. You have to be able, so there's already some of that used, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And as far as other applications within that industry for AI, I would like to center on the idea of predictions, because that's a lot of what AI does is basically it takes in data, it analyzes the data, and the output that it gives is most of the time just a prediction. It's a piece of information that the human employees will look at and perform an action based off of. Although, of course, there's other AIs may, be in contact with it and analyze that and may perform an action like a robot. But within your industry, what predictions would you like AI to be making?
So the equipment's huge. We've talked about that.
The repairs and maintenance.
Yeah, the repairs and maintenance is such a big deal. So be able to predict that, the supply chain, that's still an issue, from 2020. So be able to predict the ebbs and flows of supply and demand and getting the product here. Labor needs is an important piece. There's actually a concept right now that we believe that AI can be used to predict with much more accuracy than we can using geological data where ores and minerals are underground. And so that we can do a much more prescriptive mining operation rather than an exploratory mining operation. And so that to me is, again, talk about the economic and environmental impact, a positive impact. Being able to predict that based on geological data it's pretty fascinating.
That's incredible.
Yeah, just the scale and speed with which AI is able to analyze data and create decisions, predictions based off of that is really kind of the huge draw for it across pretty much all the industries is, they can take in pretty much what we could call an inhuman amount of data, such as about weather patterns, and within a certain geographic area, they could say, should we really set up shop there? Or is it might there be a tornado coming in?
Tornado Alley.
Yeah. And kind of ruin the whole thing for us. That brings another example from my own investigation into it is price prediction AI for metals and kind of just offering daily predictions in terms of how much will metal cost Tuesday of next week? How much will it cost that Thursday? And kind of just deciding on a supply chain level, what is the best day to order?
So tell us that conceptual model. So I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. You're going to be able to predict where to mine and also potentially not have to have humans mining.
Yeah. So there's, AI-driven technology we're using today. There's AI technology that is in the research process. And then there's concepts that haven't been proven. And so one of them is purely unmanned mining operations.
Wow.
So I think it'll be some time before we see anything like that. But we were chatting about this earlier too. The one that just blows my mind is the alloys that can actually change their properties based on the environment that they're in, and we could use AI to control those.
Oh my gosh.
I can't even get my head around.
That's hard to grasp.
And all of the great ways that we could use something like that.
So as a leader, obviously in this industry, and then just on your own, what are you using AI for in your daily life?
I just got a car that has CarPlay in it. And so I talk to my car and I talk to it all the time. So to me, it's quite the safety measure, right? It's reading my text to me. And of course, using Alexa and all the things that it's, as an operations person, using ChatGPT to write processes, to write, standard operating procedures. As someone who, I know I'm operations, but I'm not that detailed, but it's so much faster. And then to take it, now I've never produced an SOP that was perfect out of ChatGPT. And there's always, some significant, but just to get a framework around
first
that,
pass,
is really good. It's so efficient.
Yeah. And your time is so valuable. So
absolutely.
Being able to not spend a lot allocating that on, the first draft when it kind of spits it out for you.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So you mentioned kind of ChatGPT never bringing out something perfect, and that's kind of part of the wisdom about this technology and just AI in general is that it can't do everything exactly as we humans want it to, because we kind of have something in our head in terms of no, it needs to be done this way, or we have this overarching goal, and AI can really only focus on the tasks that you give it. So it doesn't have that kind of broader view in terms of like, okay, here's why this matters. Here's why I need an SOP. It just says, okay, you want me to write text, and here are the words I think are related to the prompt that you gave me. So that sort of brings up this issue with human oversight. And you mentioned unmanned mining operations. So, and I would guess that whether it's manufacturing or just a mining site, like a factory floor that is for manufacturing, that there's a lot more opportunity there to kind of have AI take a lot of reins on a lot of aspects of the work there. But there's also going to need to be some human oversight. So I wanted to ask you, what roles in particular do you think should always be occupied by a human within this industry?
I actually think there's a ton of tasks that can be removed from lots of different roles by AI. But AI is only as good as its history of events that it has stored or its data that it has stored. It's great for program decisions, and not everything can be reduced to an if-then statement. There are situations that we get involved in that are novel. Black swan's a little dramatic, but that are novel, that are new, that we don't have a lot of historical data around, that I think that AI will struggle with. I also think that there's decisions that we make on a daily basis as humans where and actually we could get into our entire philosophical conversation about this.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I know, where we trust our gut, which actually the definition of gut is that your body's reacting to past experience, right? So, but there are situations that we get in where we have to just make decisions based on our gut, or that are best decided by our fight or flight response, or some response that is a combination of our body responding and our brain responding, that AI can't do that. And so there's always going to be that piece that humans will have to be involved in.
As well as its emotions. AI famously cannot feel emotions.
Yeah.
It's a machine.
Yeah, doesn't have that human consciousness.
Yes.
Which brings us to, from an ethical standpoint, there's a lot of, I know I mentioned it earlier, doom and gloom, but there's not as many people and businesses focused on the ethical part. How is MI2 focused on creating policies around how you're using AI and this technology within the company, or even just from an industry standpoint?
Yeah, that's not specifically a conversation I've been involved in. I know those conversations are being had, so I don't want to speak on behalf of a conversation I've not been involved in. One piece I actually do personally spend some time thinking about is really how it's going to be regulated. Because anytime there's an ethical question, there's also a legal question, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And so, especially with the metals industry, because they're global companies. So if Europe has a different policy or regulation on the use of AI, whether it be machine learning or whatever, than the US does, how does that impact these industries? And
How's it affecting us?
Yeah, it can get big and complicated really, really quickly.
Well, good. I'm glad you're the COO and not me.
There's some really smart people in this industry. I guarantee they're going to get it figured out and figured out fast, but it's not figured out yet. So,
And part of that is just that AI is just moving so fast.
It is.
And that the human ability to adapt to it is perhaps, it's just a very huge challenge compared to, how quickly Silicon Valley can move, which we are learning can be like a jackrabbit, basically, just very, very quickly. But that kind of brings to mind for me, just over the past year and a half, so much has changed in AI. We've gone from, this ChatGPT can write like a little poem for me, to, oh my God, now it's making, full-blown videos. And it's almost like nothing. It's almost like, of course you can do that.
yeah,
why not?
So what have you specifically noticed about AI in the past year that's really excited you or just caught your attention?
We've talked about quite a bit of it. Where I get excited about AI, and this should not be a surprise because I think I've said it repeatedly, is where it can improve job quality, and then also the positive environmental impact that it can have. Great example right now, we're in the process of finishing up issuing 2 requests for proposal. One of them is to write a 5-year clean energy plan to increase the usage of clean energy in an affordable and dependable way for the metals industry in Kentucky. And had these RFPs been released maybe even 2 years ago, I don't think I would have had the expectation that I have now that AI modeling will be a part of it. 2 years ago, that would not have been an assumption I made. Now, it could have been, right? I mean, it could have been a part of it, but it would not have been an assumption I would have made, where now I'm assuming that AI will be a part of solving these two problems.
That kind of brings up, for me, kind of just how each individual person within their role is probably going to be interacting with AI to some capacity. And what AI is often pitched as is as like, this sort of Swiss Army knife kind of assistant that you can have kind of at your beck and call, whether it's to write an email or anything. But what within your particular role would you like to be able to delegate to AI?
Some scheduling and things like that. Like, it's not the sexy stuff. Like, it's, it's the scheduling. There are times where there's problems that I need to solve that I don't know that I'm considering all aspects. And if there's a way to get AI to make me think bigger and broader than what I would sitting at my desk by myself, that would be pretty awesome. Because, again, being a more efficient, productive human, that'd be awesome if AI could do that. It probably can. I just need to go research it and figure it out.
Well, it's supposed to be a tool, right?
Absolutely.
Like, to enhance.
Absolutely.
Are there any other industries that you all are partnering with or looking to collaborate with MI2?
Yeah, MI2 in and of itself, like literally our tagline, there's two words that always stick out to me: collaborative and transparent. We are, in fact, everything we do is public. We publish everything on our website, mi2ky.org.
Didn't even know that.
Yep. Like all of the initiatives that I've talked about, if you want any detail on any of those are in there, or those are on the website. And all of our folks that are involved with us are there. But MI2, I think collaborative actually comes first, because anyone that's in advanced manufacturing, anyone in the ecosystem, anybody with good, smart ideas that are working, like, will actually be involved with Kentucky's Innovation Conference, in a couple weeks. Like, it's so broad. I mean, it's anyone who wants to participate in the ecosystem, we will work with. There's no phone call I won't take.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking, automotive, like there's so much,
absolutely.
so just that industry in and of itself. And maybe if technology is developed there, that can then help us in Kentucky for metal.
I do believe that Kentucky is putting itself on the map. Like I think the Biden administration just released about $6 billion, and Kentucky got $800 million of it. Yeah, it's not a small number. And that's going into places like, I'm probably getting off topic, but it's going into, well, I'll bring it back circle. How about that? So it's going into places like, this is going to go into eastern rural Kentucky, where they just announced that they're going to put an aluminum smelting plant in. 1,000 jobs, right?
Wow.
That smelting plant will be covered with AI. You think about machine learning, autonomous vehicles, like the equipment maintenance, the preventative maintenance, that plant will be covered with AI tools that are partnering with humans in a really positive way.
That's incredible.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
This is official. This is happening.
Well, the news said it is. There was a press release.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to take a minute, but there was a press release.
I'm going to have to do some research after that. That's
I'll
amazing.
send you the article. I've got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much, on an average week, I write about AI pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's intimidating to me.
Yeah. And still, like, I'll be researching articles, just looking through the latest news, and there's still always something I'm like, I had no idea that was happening. And it leaves me with a bunch of questions. So I was wondering what questions you might have about AI that you would want answered.
With the way that you followed it, like, what are your concerns? What questions are we not asking ourselves? Because I believe that there's questions we're not asking ourselves yet that we need to be thinking through.
Probably security-wise, I would say like the cybersecurity threats of like, being able to create AI software packages that someone would get on the dark web and just start running, and it'll just immediately just start, whether it's a DDoS attack, meaning like, distributed denial of service, and just shut down like a pipeline.
Grid system.
Yeah, that's already happening though, right?
Yeah, but just making it so much more, it's like you don't need any real technical expertise so that any kind of bad actor can kind of get.
Got it.
That kind of stuff concerns me. It's just the criminal applications of it. But I do think there are, I guess I do feel like I need to balance it out a little bit. Is that it can be like things like OpenAI's Sora, allowing people with less experience or just not as many resources to kind of just like small business, for example, like a mom and pop store suddenly being able to produce video that it may not otherwise be able to afford can kind of help it, level the playing ground a little bit.
You're speaking to Summer, your point earlier. It's all about who's using it. Like, is it in the hands of
being
good?
applied. Yeah,
exactly. Any last words of wisdom that you would like to leave the audience with in regards to AI or MI2?
I'm passionate about the state of Kentucky, about the Commonwealth, and I'm so honored to get to be a part of the work that MI2 is doing to support the metals industry in Kentucky. And kind of like a kid in a candy store, because I feel like I have a front row seat to how AI is going to be a part of that. And I'm just very much looking forward to it.
That's amazing. So Summer, if people want to get in touch with you, where do they go?
Absolutely. So actually all of our contact information is on mi2ky.org.
Fantastic.
Yeah, my email address is summer.goldman@mi2ky.org.
Love it. Well, thank you very much. You've been amazing. This is very insightful. So everyone go visit the website, learn a little bit more, and Kentucky proud.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Go AI. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and review our podcast so we can continue to grow and offer more great AI content. If you're looking for digital marketing, digital transformation, or AI help, make sure you visit www.guardianowdigital.com. Have questions? Email team@guardianowdigital.com for answers. See you next time on Go AI.